Well, welcome back to the Batuta Advocate radio show. You're joined today by myself, Clancy Overall, and editor-at-large Errol Parker. How are you, Errol?
Not bad, Clance. How are you today?
Good, mate. Now we're recording live from the Baxter Boots studio as usual. We've got a special guest in here today. There's been a lot of great yarn smiths, I guess you could say, from Western Queensland. There's been a lot of stories about a lot of blokes set in Western Queensland. Batuta Advocate have written many, but one of the more iconic authors of, I guess, the last century, for particularly for blokes in cowboy fiction, was a man named Robert G. Barrett.
Yeah, he wrote 20 books about the same bloke. That's a lot of yarns, Clancy.
Yes, he was writing about the now iconic character Les Norton. Obviously, Robert G. Barrett's passed. He's no longer with us, but his stories remain. And for many years, John Singleton, Jack Singleton, that particular media family, have been working quite hard with different EPs and screenwriters to get a TV show up and running about the life of Les Norton, the wild man from Dirrabandi who moved to Bondi in the 80s and ended up becoming a bouncer in the King's Cross at the time, the colourful King's Cross.
And that's now in Rake's old slot on the ABC on Sunday nights, isn't it?
Yeah, Sunday evenings at 8:30. Les Norton is now officially brought to life. It's been getting some great reviews. And actually, we have been lucky enough to be joined today by the lead actor in the new Les Norton production, Alex Bertrand.
Now, Alex is one of those actors who didn't grow up with dreams of becoming an actor. That's something that's come later in life. He's a boy from down there at the northern part of Sydney, the northern beaches there.
Seagulls country.
Yeah, so he's left school and joined the army. And a couple of years later, he injured his leg. And then, like most people who don't really know what to do with their lives, he ended up at acting school. And to tell us all about it, he's in the studio with us.
You're listening to Errol Parker and Clancy Overall, editors of the Batuta Advocate on Desert Rock FM.
Alex Bertrand, the actor playing the iconic Les Norton in the wildly popular new ABC show Les Norton, based on the Robert G. Barrett?
Robert G. Barrett.
Barrett. Robert G. Barrett books. I nearly said Robert R.R. fucking...
Any good author.
They needed to put an R.R. in there. It's because it's almost fantasy.
Any author that doesn't have a middle initial doesn't work out.
Doesn't work out.
No.
J.K. Rowling, Tolkien.
R.L. Stein.
R.L. Stein. How are you, Bertrand? What's going on, mate?
Mate, not a lot. Just come off the back, obviously, of the fourth episode on Sunday and about to start Fallout next week. So we're just kind of in the middle of chaos at the moment. Just had to move house and, just settling in, really.
I mean, I guess it's probably not fair to describe you as, plucked off the street, even though a lot of the kind of PR team behind Les Norton are saying those kind of things. You've been acting for a little while.
Yeah. I mean, it was more that thing of like, you never really, like, you never think you can just be an actor.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, honestly, like it's not the thought that goes through your head, or that there's a way of going about it. And even still, with acting school, it's still not the way. You know what I mean? It was just the way that I thought. From my military perspective, obviously coming out of that, I was like, what's the way that I can walk into this and have something behind me and have the training. And it was like, obviously, 2-year diploma at Screenwise, you finish and you're still thrown into the mix, and that's like 2015. So you start 2013, 4 months out of the army. You can imagine what that was actually like. You've come from a year.
You get told when to go to bed.
Mate, on and off, like the injury to obviously my right leg, being at TRW there. Shout out to anybody who's stuck at TRW right now. It's probably,
that's Singleton.
That's that's actually down here at Holsworthy. So it's the trainee rehabilitation wing of the Australian military. And basically, it's where every single trainee who's been injured has to go and rehabilitate. And you can imagine there's...
Really, from all over the country.
Yeah, and you can imagine there's probably like... I don't want to put numbers out here when I was there, but there was probably 60 or 65% were malingerers, which is, faking injury and just have been there for a year and a half with HD TVs and sitting there in their cell. And you can imagine, and then like OH&S, that you're not allowed to train outside your rehab programs or anything. So you're just stuck in this... Your only release was when you're actually going to the hospital and the rehab facility, which was open when I was there. It's an $8 million rehab facility. They opened at the time. This is every XSF member. Obviously, anyone stationed down there, they're coming in to get their prosthetics fitted. They're, you're walking through. There's the guy with the, he's your size arch. He's 6'6". He's got a huge scar across his head. He's trying to fit a circle into a square hole.
Yeah.
That's his daily rehabilitation. And while you're stuck there, you're also under the thumb and scrutiny because you're still a trainee, so you're not respected as a soldier yet.
Yeah.
So it was like, I did a solid 6-7 months of that.
Yeah. So there's not much valor in that kind of place,
mate. You do get approvals to go play enemy and stuff like that for 2 commando or whatever it would be if they're doing some kind of training exercise and. That's the only release if you've got shits and you've hit a medical grade where they'll let you go do that. But other than that, it was basically hell. It was like being in jail, and it was you were stuck there, and that was every day. Once you left there, me and a buddy of mine, we trained outside the rehab program. We'd go to Liverpool Anytime Fitness, and 3 of us would go at night once we'd knock off and we'd drive off base and go train, and then because people were putting on weight.
So you had a busted knee.
So I'd snapped the right kneecap. I had grade 4 damage to my patella, grade 3 to the condylar area, my actual kneecap itself. But I tried to crack on for, probably a month because just hoping I could get back squatted. Back squatting is basically if you're with your one platoon, you might be able to do 5 weeks of rehabilitation, jump into another platoon that's 5 weeks into their training, and then you finish off. So you're not finishing with your actual mates you were with, but at least you're finishing. Now that's what I was hoping to do, but then they start doing x-rays and surgeries, and then, the things start, and then they send you off, and, eventually you get that shit that says, you're no longer going to be an infantryman or have any physical capability here. You can't pass it. So when you hit that stage, then you go into the process of exiting the army.
Is there a bit of a come down there?
Mate, I can't tell you. I trained originally I wanted to be a clearance diver. So when I was in Thailand, went over there, 19, absolutely no visions of being a fighter or anything, just going there to train with a couple of our mates who'd actually gone over there at the time. Now this is where Tiger Muay Thai and Dragon Muay Thai were at the time. Now there was nothing else on this road. Tiger Muay Thai had a hole in the wall cafe, maybe 2-3 rings at the most they'd had set up there. Dragon was still the one ring at the front. Yeah. They'd just built these 2 little complexes on the road. Now you fast forward 10 years, this is now the mecca for fitness in the world. And it's like, and so Boyd, who was actually training with us at Dragon, this guy, I thought his name was Boy for the, you know what I mean? Like we'd always, but his name was Boyd, and Boyd Clark's his actual name. And he married this tiger when we were there, and he set up like a pad store, selling a couple of things. Anyway, he goes on to own and open Phuket Top Team.
Right.
So all the trainers that I originally started with at Dragon were there. So, it was it was a crazy time to be there when we were there. It was just this new experience in the jungle.
Were you diving at the same time?
No. So the whole thing was I went over there, and then this random dude, this is what I'm getting to, this random dude is there, he's my age, I just met him when we were there. He's the youngest guy ever to have made the divers in the history of 16 and 9 months. Now he's there on 3 months paid leave a year. So you can imagine you're over there doing the adrenaline thing, you're training, you're fighting, you're doing whatever, and then suddenly you meet this dude, and he's on 105 grand, whatever it is, fresh out of training. So I kind of went, you got to remember, like, we're raised in that generation that our trauma was September 11, right? Mm-hmm. That was our trauma then, so that was reverberated through us growing up. So it was that whole thing, that peak of the war. I'm then 19. I went, mate, if I survive that and come out of that, I can do anything. Yeah. I remember I actually had the conversation with my mum because I wanted to, I thought about acting, and I was like, no, I've got to do this first before I can go back and do something like that. It was just something in me, like just had to do it. So went over, fought, came back, started training for the divers. I got accepted through the me sessions and the U sessions and everything there, but they weren't running a CDAT which is clearance diver acceptance training for, probably 18 months. What it ended up being from the day that I was actually accepted. So you still got to be doing your medicals running through. You can imagine everyone just everyone's going, oh, is he really going? You're young, and you're still waiting, and you just feel like an idiot because everyone's, moving on to what they're doing. They're at uni, doing what they do. So eventually they said, look, you can try out for the infantry. Yeah. Eventually down the line, you might be able to go try out for 2 commando or do whatever. They pump you fully the whole thing. And so I went, yeah, that's great. Go in there, finish basic training. First 2 months of Singo, snap kneecap. Yeah. It's all over. So you can imagine that's almost 2 years of hardcore training in your life. So the come down that you have off that, it's hard to describe because you've spent that whole period being taught that you're not a civilian. You're a soldier.
So for the listeners who don't really know. The Navy clearance divers, they're more like the... in America, they'd be the Navy SEALs.
Yeah, it'd be more like they'd be the UDT teams, like the underwater demolition. So you'd be trained in pneumatic drills and chainsaws and water insertions and a lot of underwater explosive ordnance clearing.
Yep.
And it's high octane. So this bloke you met, he was an intense dude.
He was, and this guy was like 5'6".
Yeah.
You know, he was like tiny, 5'6", 5'7". Like he was the shortest, littlest dude, and he was telling me stories about when he'd be on dive course and lose his mask and wouldn't even have the guts to like say I've left my mask, and he'd be doing night dives with no bloody goggles on, off palmy, just because he knows how chewed out he's going to get. Because if it's an operational deployment, they train the same way. So he would just prefer to just shut up and have his eyes open.
Go salty.
Dark. Yeah. And I don't know what it is, but when you're a young bloke, it's just something about. I was definitely wanting to test myself in that way. I was young, fit, and capable, and I mean, just the way, massive believer, in the universe, obviously, and everything's happening for a reason. And then suddenly, the injury at the time was, gutting, and then it's like you find yourself
surrounded by these. Potentially not injured blokes.
Well. I think there's a lot of people who don't really know that there is the jail for the whole of the ADF is also on Holdsworthy.
It is.
Yeah. Did you get to hang out with those guys too?
I did get to meet a couple of military coppers when I was in there. They were they were like. I mean, the military police, obviously, that's a high octane job in itself because you don't realise, like, when they start, the deployments they get are tailored to, diplomats and, in war zones.
Yeah, right.
So these guys actually then get put in the most high-risk PTSD triggering kind of jobs because they're constantly on, surrounded by, diplomats protecting them 24/7. Yeah. But, I mean, they have the brig out there, and I think guys can do up to a year. Year inside and, come out, so...
Did you find that PTSD thing, like the whole attitude towards that in the military, changing while you were there? Because it feels like a relatively new thing that everyone's, it's actually accepted, and it's a thing that you talk about now.
Yeah, I mean, it's
in and outside of the military.
Yeah. I mean, totally. And it was like at the time, obviously, you'd see it from you'd see it from higher ups. You'd meet guys, and there'd be guys obviously clearly who were suffering from it badly, and you just put it down to them being angry or having a chip on the shoulder or whatever, and then you find out the guy's been in 3 IED strikes.
He's an interesting bloke.
Yeah, he's got a story. But I mean, the amazing thing is that I dealt with a lot of guys coming out of the military. I met a lot of guys from Royce Hardman who stood in front of Soldier On, and a couple other guys, and it was basically their platoon. They had a really hard hit. And 2 of them have actually killed themselves since I've known these guys. It's funny that we're talking about this because I met a guy through Stephen LeMacan who plays Thumper in the series. Yeah. Now, he started an app called Red 6. It's for military members all around Australia, and they're trying to make it international at the moment. And basically, you can be walking around, there's different stages and different tiers to, obviously needing your help and how you get your help. But Code Red would be emergency services and everyone coming out. As you pass other military members, you can actually see where they are in your range, no matter what, Army, Air Force, or Navy as they served with you, and I'll actually have a bio about them, how many tours they did, what they have, and you can have the information and related to share with these guys. So it's the extra specialist boys who did Danger Close, they're totally behind it. But that's a field that it's all experimentation. I think I think in the States they're even using psilocybin and testing all kinds of hallucinogens now with guys, and they're having some success and some not. And it's a
lot of work to be done.
A lot of work to be done. Yeah. Now,
at what point in your life, Alex, were you actually working the door in the cross? Was that pre-army?
That was pre-army.
So that was pre-lockouts.
Pre-lockouts. That was pre-lockouts.
Now, also, Little Birdie told me you might have been working for a prominent hospitality professional from Sydney.
A little hospitality professional from Sydney. That is true. So, John, he's. So basically, John, I was actually very good friends with his son Daniel when we were working up there and we were younger. And I started off at a place called the Back Room when they first reopened. It was Lady Luck's when I was very young. Yeah, I was a young dude who could handle myself. I was training for the military when I'd come back from Thailand. You know, you can imagine you're sober on a weekend, you know, Thursday to Sunday, and you go out there and you make the same as you would for a week's wages. Back then it was cash, you know, so it was, you know, it was just a different time. And obviously it was nothing permanent. It wasn't a career. Yeah. It was
no super.
You know, but it was, it definitely taught me a lot about reading people.
Yep.
And, you know, there's one thing that I took from that. 9 times out of 10, you can talk someone out of something. Mm-hmm. You know, it doesn't matter what. They could have a brandy glass turned upside down in your face, off their bloody head, you know, trying to have a crack. And you can 9 times out of 10 just be like, mate, you know, I'm sober. I've been, you know, like, trust me. Like, you know, there's 6 Islanders who are on call. You know, the biggest guys I've ever met. You know, like Samir, we used to work with up there, was the silver medalist in the Sydney Olympics in judo.
Yeah,
you know, he worked the door with me there, and it's like these are the kind of guys that are on call with you. But you know, I could run the door and show face there, and I mean, it was an exciting time. You know. Lots of girls, lots of fun.
Yeah, but there's always that one, isn't there? There's always that one.
There's always that one, man.
He's dropping names, too. He's dropping names.
Just,
hey, Samir here. He told me to.
We just, and that was the first time I saw a guy get kicked in the head as he was upright. You know.
So, did you grow up playing like the character Les Norton? Obviously, a lot of our listeners are well and truly familiar with Les Norton and Barrett. Barrett sold 1 million books in Australia, which hasn't been done that many times. Did you grow up playing rugby league?
I grew up playing league till I was 6, and then I transferred to Union and I played for I was a Seaforth Raider.
Back when there was money in it.
Back when there was money in it, you know. That's what I was talking about. Like, you remember what it was like to go on a Saturday night and the whole team. All the parents would be there together, and you'd all go over, and someone would have the barbecue, and you'd be watching Johnny Hills go for the, you know, the bladder style, the Tri Nations, and he'd be taking the kick, or you'd watch Gregan take out Lomu, you know, like over. Yeah. It was exciting, and it was cool, and it was real, and I mean that's when I played, and I ended up playing for the Marlins.
Yep.
So under 14s, I think we did the undefeated tour of New Zealand.
Yep.
Came back, and they came back 2 years later, and they were all 6'8" and 120 kilos or whatever the hell they were. You know,
I don't think anything has changed at all. The only things that have changed are the fucking refs. You know, because now it's like if you're an All Black, you can enter from the side, you can enter from the front, you can enter from the back. You know, it doesn't matter.
Just approved.
Oh, they also gave us a coach for like 5 years that was the sleeper cell from New Zealand, but whatever.
Yeah. Who's paying attention?
Fucking Robbie.
Deansy. That's what the mates always say when you make a shit call. Righto, Deansy. Now, you've done a bit of TV before, and you've actually done a bit of film.
I had a pretty good upbringing, you know, great family then, obviously, coming up, parents divorced, probably 13, 14. You do your separate ways, you go to school. I actually got into filmmaking when I was super young.
Yeah.
So I used to film and edit snowboarding movies, and we make Little Jackass. You know,
fuck around, like every young man in the Western world for about 2 years there.
Yeah, you
got that camcorder out,
exactly.
Couple of trolleys.
Yeah. And I did some work experience at a place called the Construction Site in North Sydney, and it was all, unpaid. And I basically I went in there, and they were doing the Kelly movie at the time, the Slater movie, and they asked me to take 41-hour DV tapes, cut all the scenes of Kelly paddling, and I remember I was in there and just kind of kicked off a good rapport with him, and then he introduced me to a guy called Ryan Gardner. Now, Nugget was his nickname. Nugget owned Digital Snowboard magazine. So that at the time, they were the only mag that would come out and they'd have a DVD with them. Now, I started working with him. We went down to Jindabyne. We started filming. I went over to do a camp in Europe for 4 months called Holy Moly. Made the whole thing. You know, they comped the whole thing for the camp. All I had to do was pay for flights. I think it was like 14, 15. Went over, did that. Came back, obviously had a love of filmmaking, went to the States, did the same thing, snowboarding for years, back-to-back winters, went to the cross, but then the acting thing didn't come into play, as I said, until the injury. And the injury was kind of like later in life, and I'd always done the behind the scenes, but never in front. And then, you know, obviously something in you just goes, go, you give it a crack, you end up at this school. I finish. The day I finished, I had, you know, pretty lucky series of events. Had a good audition for a pretty big role overseas, and then I just missed out on the new MacGyver series.
Right,
they did. I ended up coming down the final 2 or 3 for
AKA that. America's Les Norton.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it was like, and that was like I hadn't done anything, and that was just as I'd finished acting school within 4 months, and so I mean, that at the time it was all going quite well, and then I was down at my mum's farm and coming back and forth and living in the east, and then I did a show called Hide and Seek with Deb Lee Furness and Maddie Nable. First day on set, first scene, Harriet Dyer's playing my girlfriend, and I'm playing a Nazi. So they shave all my hair off and cover me in Nazi ink.
Really?
Maddie Nable breaks my ribs.
Oh, really?
I do 8 takes each side of this like 3-4 minute long running scene where we're doing a fight, and after like 4 or 5 takes, I'm bouncing him off the concrete. He's bouncing me off the concrete. We just, we went to hammer and tong, and I had another 2 weeks of shooting to go, and we just kind of finished. And I just put a hairline fracture in 2 of my ribs, by the arm. I've got the pad on. I'm trying to sit up, and I still got 2 weeks of filming to do.
Well, he played NRL.
Oh, he's a tough unit, man. He's a gun boxer.
Big boy.
So he's not throwing the punches to hit me, but every time it's the same spot.
Yeah.
And even just with his power and precision, even if 2 or 3 of them caught, it's enough. One's enough. So that kind of happened, and then I finished the 2 weeks, and it was a great little series. It was heaps of fun, and it was pretty on the pulse with what's really been happening around Australia. And then finished that, did a bit on Home and Away for 3 months,
as you do,
playing a copper. Yeah, and just
Oh, you got to bypass the heartthrob role. You went straight to a cop.
Yeah.
Chasing those bloody river boys.
You're now. That's funny because you're now with a river boy in Les Norton.
Yeah.
Old mate Peacock, and he's a Dubbo boy, right?
He's a
Yeah.
Dubbo boy. Yeah.
And that's another thing
Very
about
Dubbo.
this Les Norton. You guys have this accent that you do sound like ringers. You spent a bit of time up in Dirranbandy?
So it wasn't Dirranbandy. So I went up to Wallumbilla.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we filmed. So I was up near Roma there, and we drove out to Wallumbilla and did this Iron Jack commercial last year.
Yeah, right.
Done
the Wallumbilla Hotel. They got the bench of bullshit.
Yeah, and the federal. Yeah. So I finished there, but then they got this extra named Jesse Johnson. He comes on set and he sits right next to me, and he's got the beer with the non-alcoholic beer in it on a Friday Arvo, and every single take he just sipping away, sculling this non-alcoholic beer, and the standby props just coming, going like, "Are you taking the piss?" And he's like, "No, it tastes good." And I started listening to him talk, and next thing you know, he's telling me where he's from. He's from right near Dirranbandy, about 90 k's away, and we start talking. And just this, it was just a light bulb moment. I was like, "You're Les Norton, you're, in terms of a character, and take the whole thing with it." I was like, "Yeah, that's the kind of run I'm going to take with it." And then you 4 months later, you're doing the callbacks or whatever. 3 months later, you're in LA.
So you already had your eye on Les.
Yeah, I'd already done the first round, but it was like we did a series to, it'll be out hopefully next year, Australian Gangster.
Yep.
And so John and Dan Edwards, who produced Gangster with Roadshow, they produced Les Norton as well. Mm-hmm. So they mentioned we've got this role, but obviously at the time you're like, once you hear the names they've got thrown in the mix and the guys they've got with them, you're going like as if I even have a crack at this or even a shot. And, they took this shot, and then, within 2 weeks it was kind of all working out, and the Schwartz boys were there. And yeah, it was a surreal experience taking this dude that I met up there, Jesse Johnson of all names. And you know what the best thing is? Like, the other day I ran into I ran into Ed, so he's the head of line. They do all the beers. And so I ran into him, I hadn't seen him in over a year, and I mentioned that, I've used Jesse as this characterization. Do you remember? And he goes, yeah, Jesse. He goes, do you know what his email was? And I was like, when he goes, Jesse the Legend at Hotmail.
Good on you, Jesse.
Good on you, Jesse, if you listen. Yeah.
I've heard the yarn about how the boys at Lion, they basically got caught asleep at the wheel because Great Northern has just, taken up that whole big market.
Snuck into the bush.
Up there in the top country,
Well, Lion, I guess, was trying to give Forex a bit of a different lane.
Yeah.
They were thinking, a bit more Corona for Forex.
Yeah.
And Great Northern just became Forex and snuck in.
Yeah, and then these guys from Iron Jack have come down and said, Great Northern is the beer that's up on all the boats up there, that's just their thing.
Yeah.
But Iron Jack is more of a crabbing beer,
Getting real niche.
Yeah. No. I thought that yarn was a fucking lie. And then if you have a look on the bottle, there's actually little tiny crabs on the fucking label.
All over it.
It was I still got to get some Iron Jack.
Yeah. Get Jack. Yeah, gonna get caught. Yeah, get sorted out with that. Now, just quickly, the Muay Thai thing. that's a big thing in the military right now. We had another guest on, Tyson Pedro.
Tyson,
a couple of weeks ago.
I actually met Tyson when we did when I was training for Gangster.
Yeah, and he did Inogra, and he was Defence Force for a while.
Yeah.
Obviously, he comes from a MMA background. But is that what's happening in the forces at the moment?
Look, I it's been 7.
Was that just you and your mates running? You went astray in Thailand and learned how to fight.
Look, it's. I mean, obviously, you got to know how to fight in the military, and it's a big part of it. I mean, one of my best mates to this day, I won't mention his name. He's in the SAS, still serving. We went through together. And the whole joke was when I got injured and as I was leaving, I said, I'm going out here, and he was just about to go on selection, and he said, okay, don't call me till you're famous, dickhead. And I said, yeah, sweet. And I said, don't call me till you make it. Anyway, surely enough, January I called him up and I said, oh, guess what? I'm about to be famous, dickhead. So he flew across and we sat there and we had a beer down at Wharfbar, and we're just having a good laugh. But I mean, he does, hand-to-hand combat. He does a lot of Krav Maga, he does a lot of jiu-jitsu, and that's what all the boys kind of train with. They do these things with these little knives with obviously wires running around the outside, and they're kind of electrified, so you can feel it when it hits you. And they do a lot of high octane is the word we'll use for that.
Yeah. Now, have you been getting much love from the bush? Because I tell you, the reviews we've been hearing is everyone loves it, and you've done the books justice as well. No one knew where they'd find a red nut as tall as you. Not a natural red nut, mind you.
No. So I had to. So I had a shaved head for Gangster. So that was the first note that I got the day we finished was, can you please just not cut your hair, just grow it from here, just in case. They're in LA and they're like, oh, can you just go get it dyed at a hairdresser real quick just to make sure, see if it looks. So I'm like, okay, this bloody bright red, and I'm still looking at it, and it's like, surely enough, you come back.
Top.
Yeah. But then when you come back, they had to do like different shades, so they're going through like the bleached eyebrows, then into the first shade of red, and then it's too red, and they're going back from the strawberry, and you're walking through, and the first day I'm walking past the Oaks, and some dude just yells out of his ear, and I felt gutted because suddenly I realised, I was like, oh man, like that actually
discrimination, bro.
I was like, yeah, that actually hurt, and he's like, you big fucking ranger. I was like, okay, can't deny that.
Well, it's so weird how the man who created this whole thing has been dead for a number of years, and he's the only one who would really know what colour red his hair was. And then you've got these people down there in Ultimo at the ABC, earning hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayer money, and they're having a whinge over what colour your hair should be. I mean, it boggles the mind.
Yeah, but look, they all everyone's got to say when it comes down to it, because so many people are involved in this thing, from the start, from Singo, his dad, the Schwartz boys, like as John Schwartz, he's a young pup. This is 7-8 years ago, almost 9. Mm-hmm. He approaches Bob Barrett while he's still with us, on his last legs for his last year. Walks up to him, he's like, "Hey mate, I'm a fan. I'd love to make these." Goes, "Yeah, cool. You just got to talk to Singo first."
Yeah, right.
And that became the thing, And then obviously Bob leaves the rights to Lisa Farrell, this beautiful angel, the possum that he talks about in the books there, and so he leaves the other part with her. And then there's all these dispersed rights and kind of over the thing, but he actually knew. Yeah,
he might have sold the rights to a few different people. Yeah. Perhaps
in
his age.
Yeah. Look, whatever he did in the end. I mean, the one thing that he knew that I love to see the fans. Everyone debates over it, and they all go, Bob would be turning his grave. You see some of these comments, you see that, and you go, okay, well, Lisa knew him, and he actually knew in the end. John and his brother Mike Schwartz for what they did.
Yeah.
With Morgan O'Neill to actually create this thing and run the ball up from there and actually have Bob's approval, on certain things. And obviously on the ground level when they started, I didn't know or was familiar other than the character, just knew the name Les Norton.
Yeah.
Mm.
Now I started on this thing and it wasn't emotional to me. It wasn't even attached. I mean, you get cast, you're in LA and you're basically on, you've spent all your money you've earned from this other job. You're living paycheck to paycheck. You're coming back and there you are in LA. You're just finishing and you're like, oh my God, so I'm Les Norton. You're like, yeah, okay. And then I'm thinking it's not even as big as Australian Gangster. I'm thinking it's just this, pretty decent show, ABC. And then they call me and they go, okay, so we got your first co-star. Yeah, I was like, oh, cool, who's that? Oh, it's Rebel Wilson.
Yeah.
Shit.
What? You know, like it's like, okay, and then it's like, oh yeah, and so it's David Wenham.
Yeah. So those were different waves you had to ride.
Yeah, and like for me, obviously, like I work well under pressure. That's the one thing I've worked out. Like if I've got spare time, I'm no good. Give me a whole bunch of shit to do, and I'll work pretty well. And it was like, so the pressure, I guess, that came from that is the pressure to perform. And then you go, okay, so you really focus on it. And I just went down, spent some time with my family down the south coast with Chrissy. Went and got this huge 10-person 2-room tent. Split it up, basically glamping. Put the queen size in there, set up the front room, and put my grandfather's book from World War II. My grandma and him both passed away, but he was a highly decorated fighter pilot.
Yeah.
Bring his book everywhere I go, and I've got my grandma's elephant, which is a brass elephant from India where she was born. So I bring them everywhere with me. Got my little sage, I'd burn that. Got my 10 eps, and I just wake up every morning watching the whales and dolphins jump, and I'd have the roos around me.
Read the whole thing, top to bottom.
Read the whole thing, top to bottom, and I went to Lowe's and I bought a bunch of like AC/DC singlets and footy shorts and just thongs, and I just didn't wear anything else but this, and they dyed my hair halfway through this.
Then you hit the gym obviously at some point.
Yeah, that's moody.
That's a big read. That's easy.
But the funniest thing was, I remember I got to like ep 8 and I just called Morgan. I hadn't really spoken to Morgan for the Chrissy period. I met him for a beer, I think, in Milton when we were down there just over the Chrissy period. But I called him and just said, "You funny bastard." I got to about 8 and I went, "We're going to have to pull this off." Like I was reading it. When you're reading it, you're going, "This is outrageous. How the hell we get?"
Well, do you think that Morgan has read every Les Norton book? Or do you think he read the first couple and was like, yeah, I think I got the gist of this?
Look, I think, no, Morgan's a massive Bob fan. And, I think what Morgan loves about the books, Bob could laugh at everyone.
Yeah.
Could take the piss out of everyone. That's what this day and age is missing. And it's not, it's nothing against the how far we've come as a society, It's more just the fact that, there's barriers and there's limits to things that we all have to appreciate. Someone can be someone without offending someone else, and there should be a bit of leeway. So to dance that line and then to obviously be commissioned for the ABC, you're like, okay, this is.
And he danced that line very well in the 80s.
That's what I mean. Is like, this is magic what the guy did, and it's like, but he did it. He did it, and then you cast the people that he cast.
Well, there's some interesting stats. Most loaned book at Long Bay Jail.
Yep.
Which is just so funny because you imagine those blokes down there reading the books thinking, this is me when I get out. You know what I mean? I'm going straight to Bondi and I'm going to be rooting and brawling and yada.
Most read in the Defence Force.
Yeah, Defence Force too, right.
Well, there's 20 books.
Right, and then there's 2 short stories or something on top. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing this thing go the whole way because you get to the end of Les's kind of catalogue, and there's High Noon in Nimbin, 2002.
Oh, yep.
That was Les's last, I think, his last appearance. Was a Nimbin themed.
Well, it's funny because it's like, I'm not sure if it was that book because I'm not familiar, with the exact correlations or what was written in. I just know when they put one in.
Mate, there were some books where he's in there for 2 pages.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I know. And it's like, and the funny thing is, obviously the places you can go with the story and as an arc, like, I'm not from a wanky acting point of view or anything, but it's like as an arc, you've got 20 books to work with, and then you've also got storylines which you can create with people like Morgan and writers' rooms. Yeah. So it's not it's not like there's a lack of content to draw from or use for it. And
might be the next rake. I don't know.
Could be.
Good time slot. Now tell us what it was like working with Johnny Spiteri, David Wenham.
Honestly, that was it's a spin out because the first day you meet, like, you know what I watched the other night, and I completely forgot he was even in it. It was the third Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
But he's gun.
Yeah,
like he does. He rides through his death.
He's very
He's Faramir, bro. Like,
very good at he's very good at a neutral fantasy accent.
Yeah.
300, he does the same thing. Yeah. This is not an accent. This is just English language.
But
I went to boarding school in Hong Kong.
That's the accent. Yes. That's the accent of fantasy.
Yes. Yeah, my mum's from Canada and my father is from Namibia.
But it's like, that's the thing, man. Imagine having a dude like Wenham come on set, and you got Rosniak with you. He's just, just honestly the funniest dude ever. And we're sitting there, and Wenham's just a professional, man. Like he
like I've said this a couple of times, but there's one day he would have had 215 to 230 lines in a day, 16 minutes of footage to film, and he just did it, and he didn't drop a beat. And he even said to Wozniak and I, we're talking about, like, have we read the scripts in, a couple of months or whatever, and he's going, yeah, so I read all 10 again on Sunday just to get through them, just to refresh myself of where we'd be for these ones. And I'm kind of going, that's why you're David Wenham.
Yeah, you're a professional.
Yeah. Like there's a great line of use for him. He's an acting mercenary.
Yeah.
You need the job done, you call Wenham.
that is a good line. Yeah. Well, he appeared in most recently as well another series of obviously Romper Stomper.
Yes, that was
yeah. But he's never stopped working. That's another thing.
No.
Some people take sabbaticals. Now, what was it like working with Rebel? Because she's coming off some big steam in LA.
Yeah.
That doesn't affect her. She's just straight into it. Does she appreciate being in an Australian production?
Look, I think she had more fun than she even realised she was going to have. You know, like with her and I, I won't give too much away because, obviously it's later, 8, 9, those kind of apps when you'll see all this, but we did some outrageous stuff.
Yeah.
Her and I together, and it gets to, like, there's one episode, the one when it hits, and it's absurd. When I was reading it on paper, I was like, how's this even going to work? Her coming back from where she's come from, and off the back of what she's come from as well, just with turmoil, the media, herself, her role. You can't imagine what it's like, to walk in someone's shoes or be someone. So when they came on, I was just, I was neutral. I was like, hey, hi, nice to meet you. I'm here. And she just had an instant kind of connection and a turnaround, and we had an amazing time, man. Like it was lots of fun. She'd rock up, and she loves to improv. So a
bit of riffing.
Bit of riffing is and it was, but that's the thing, she loved it and she was great at it, and she is great at it, and that's her niche, and that's what she brings to it. It's just different people doing different things, and that's the mix that we have.
Now, just lastly, Alex, what's coming up for you? Is there anything in Fallout?
Yep. So,
and
look, I've got a couple big things in the pipeline over in the States, but that's just totally.
Gag order.
Like it's
NDA stands for non-disclosure agreement.
But there's a couple really cool things on the horizon. But at the end of the day, super happy. Obviously, starting Fallout next week. Good mate of mine. We've just done. Thing you boys know, Parsonson. The legend himself. It's like he'll be joining me as Cillian Murphy in Fallout. Yeah, he's a little acting mercenary himself.
Yeah. A lifer from Love My Way to
he's
Fallout.
risen the ranks, and it's a really interesting project, Fallout.
Oh, beauty. Well, mate, it's great to see big fellas getting cast again in Australia. I don't want to say too much, but there's a lot of slender Australian roles that don't go begging. Ryan Corr, your smaller Hemsworths. I think you're the
medium ground.
The cheaper Hemsworths.
No comment.
No, but also, there's a lot of this has been the first time in a long while since we've seen a big alpha character come out of Australian TV, I guess.
Yeah.
Australian TV is really good at doing like the drunken anti-hero.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them, but there's never just like the straight edge, not that dull, but like just a good bloke.
I know what you
brute.
mean. It's been a while since we've had the Brute on TV.
Yeah.
And, it is refreshing to play that, and it also is refreshing to be doing what we're doing, but... like I said, man, I'm super happy to be here because I know at any stage it can all be over. I know at any stage you cannot be working, and
it's not going to end as quickly as say like the military does when you tear your knee open. But...
Oh look, dude, I'll knock this wood because anything can happen. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's just be present, always be present. Enjoy the moment, enjoy the day. Come in.
If not, you've got a grime album in you, I reckon.
Yeah, got a grime album. Yeah, get a couple of those. Or we'll save that one. Save that one down the track.
Spit a few bars.
Yeah, yep. One forward dropped a good one today. So,
yeah.
Saw that. Well, thanks for joining us, Bertrand. It's great. It's great to have you here, boys, and we look forward to seeing the rest of the apps.
Yep, we do. With there's just a couple left, and you've been. I'm just reading now that you have been rating higher than the cricket. Every night it's been on.
Wow, higher than the Ashes
when it's been on Sunday,
That's
Higher than the cricket.
That's pretty good gear, mate.
That's pretty good gear.
Good
yeah.
gear.
I'll take that.
Yeah. Good gear.
Thank you,
mate.
mate.
Mate, my pleasure.